All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Day 3, Ignite. How's your week going so far? All right. How have you been feeling about creating the modern workplace for your organization so far, based on what you've heard this week at Ignite? Excited. One person said excited. I love it. I couldn't have scripted that better myself. Well, hopefully, if you haven't come away with clear ideas of how Microsoft and Microsoft 365 are helping organizations create a modern workplace type of feel to bring culture, people, and space together, really help drive transformation, then hopefully this session will do so. I really think about Surface Hub 2S as being one of these kind of sci-fi technology of the future devices that's available today to help with what you're doing. I get super excited about this device. I get really passionate about the technology. It's what I live for. I've been doing this for 11 years at Microsoft. Super excited. My name is David Alexander. I should probably introduce myself, by the way. I am so happy and excited to have Stephanie Leader from Nike here with us on stage today. I think there's nothing better at a Microsoft conference than hearing, not from Microsoft, about how the technology actually can really help transform what real customers are trying to do in their organization and to help use to inspire their employees to really do their best work and bring their best every day. That's what gets me passionate. It's what I've heard Stephanie talk so passionately about. We'll hear from her just a little bit later. She's actually the one who's going to be doing the demo, which is super, super exciting. So very much thank you for being here, Stephanie. So why did we actually go ahead and create this device? What are the trends that we're seeing in the work world today? These are probably common themes that you're seeing. Hopefully, these resonate with you and what you're seeing within your own organization. First of all, collaboration. We work is more important now than me work, and it's more important than it ever has been before. We see more and more companies shifting their focus to prioritizing just as much the collaboration and iterative process of teams sort of getting to the finish line and the final product and the final presentation and the output, as focusing on what that output actually is. The process is super important, and enabling teams to really bring their best to that collaborative process, whether it's in person or increasingly inclusive of remote participants, that's super important. And you see that more than half of the work done today is accomplished through collaboration than people sitting in a more traditional posture by themselves at their desk just doing their own work individually. Of course, that's still an important part of the process, but more and more the collaboration piece is key. Remote working, super important for many, many reasons. This is probably just as true for all of your organizations as we see it and live it every day at Microsoft. Companies are trying to not only reduce their carbon footprint, they're trying to save their money with travel expenses and do as much as they can remotely and avoid sending people where they don't necessarily have to be if now digital technology can make for as impactful a presence in that collaboration as an in-person presence would have been. But more so, companies are also realizing as they're trying to transform their culture, even just having their normal employees who do come to the office be able to work remotely from home in a more flexible working environment to accommodate the fact that we're all people. And sometimes we have real people needs that come up and require more flexible working conditions. Maybe your kids or your partner gets sick and you need to be able to care for them at home. And so to be able to accommodate that type of remote work 5 miles away from the office is just as important as accommodating the work of remote workers 5,000 miles away from the office. And we see that trend really increasing as well as companies try to promote more and more of that culture of enabling all of that flexibility. And then, of course, the evolution of space, how companies are organizing where their employees are actually doing work within a building. More and more office workspaces are looking less and less like the traditional single office or single cubicle structure. And more organizations are really trying to create spaces that are either agile, where furniture, walls, partitions, all sorts of things can be moved around at any given time to sort of reform the space in the way that makes the most sense for a given team, a given project at a given time. Or just to create and really facilitate more inspiration and more collaboration. When you have open space, it naturally drives people to talk to each other more. Now, there are lots of different studies. Different things are right for different teams and different companies. And so the fact that different companies are doing this differently is very much a part of that evolution and that diversity of the ways that companies are reusing space. But the fact remains that things are looking less and less like that traditional workplace than ever before. And so all of those trends are the things that went into building what we now have available, Surface Hub 2S. This is an all-in-one device that's built for teamwork and collaboration. And unlike our first V1 Surface Hub, which was often mounted just on walls, this is a mobile product. To be able to go where teamwork and collaboration needs to happen, it could be a traditional meeting room, but it can also just as increasingly be not a traditional meeting room. And that's been super important as a motivation for everything from the design of the screen all the way down to the accessories you see that we co-developed with our partners, which I'll talk about in a little bit. The hardware technology is amazing. I'm the marketing guy. I get to celebrate the engineering team at Microsoft until the cows come home. It's one of my favorite things to do because they have done, honestly, a whole bunch of engineering magic to really design a beautiful, stunning 4K plus 3:2 aspect ratio, industry-leading pen and touch-enabled display. Whew! I can't even say all those words without taking a breath. But every one of those words has a ton of engineering truth, but more importantly, customer value behind why we did it and brought it to the product. The screen is super important for a number of reasons from a collaboration standpoint. The 3:2 aspect ratio fits more of the content, just like all of the Surface devices do, so that you can really maximize the productivity of that screen. The resolution is really important so that when video feeds come through in a 4K plus display, we can actually have 1080p plus individual video feeds coming through on the Teams call. Super important. And of course, speaking of Teams, this device is built on top of the Microsoft 365 experience. It's built on top of Windows 10. So it's going to be a fantastic Microsoft Teams remote collaboration experience. We also still support Skype for Business as companies are making their transition. The other piece of collaboration that's really important is being able to ideate and brainstorm. And this is a showcase experience for the Microsoft Whiteboard app. In fact, the Microsoft Whiteboard engineering team actually develops first for functionality on the Surface Hub, and then they scale that functionality to the apps that are available for other Windows 10 PCs, for iOS, for the web, and coming soon, Android, because we want to make that app available so that everyone on any platform can collaborate in the Whiteboard. Of course, as a teamwork and collaboration-oriented device, this device doesn't belong to any one person. It doesn't have the identity of people. Like, I don't actually stay signed in on this device. It is its own identity. This one's called Demo Hub 9. But that's important because without being tied to any one person's identity, companies can feel comfortable to deploy these as truly shared devices, where when any one team is done using it and they press the End Session button, which you'll see us show later on, all of the information that may have been pulled up during the course of that collaborative session is wiped away. Any identities that were logged in, any cloud files that were pulled down to pull into the collaboration, to edit, to copy, to use content, all of that is wiped away from the device, and it's clean and ready for the next team. It's a super important part of the way we've designed our special optimized version of Windows 10 for this device to give companies that confidence to really make this a shared resource. Of course, I talked about industry-leading pen and touch, and so we've built all the expertise that we've learned from building Surface Pen and all of our other pen and touch-enabled displays here. And so we actually have industry-leading experiences on large touchscreen panels, things like super low parallax. That's a very engineering-heavy term. I can explain what it means later. But things that actually are keeping this device front and center and industry-leading for years to come. And so when companies think about making an investment, that will actually scale not only 1, 2 years, 3 years, but 5 years, 7 years, 10 years out. It's super important that this technology will still be front and center and relevant that far out, and your investment will be something that you can continue to leverage. Unlike other large screen displays you might see out there, like point solutions that might be VTC-oriented or might just be whiteboards, this has VTC, this has Whiteboard, and because it's built on top of Windows 10, it also brings the full productivity capabilities and the familiarity of Windows 10 that customers are used to. Everything from multitasking, copying and pasting content, running apps that you'd expect to be on a Windows device, like Office apps, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. We have access to the Microsoft Store, so you can install store apps, third-party apps that you might want to use to render third-party content, 3D CAD files, things like that. So super important because it does all of those collaboration capabilities, and it's a Windows device, this really becomes a computer for the team to use, which is super important. And then lastly, this is a mobile device. We'll show you at the end. We'll yank all the cables, and we'll drag this thing down the stage, and it will stay active. The screen will stay on. This becomes effectively the world's largest tablet, if you will. Windows 10 tablet, I should say. Thanks to the partnership we've done with Steelcase, which makes our rolling stand, and APC by Schneider Electric, which makes the battery. But actually, if you look closely, it's actually hard to tell where one product leaves off and the other begins, and that's actually on purpose. We co-developed with those companies to make sure that for all of you, it feels like one seamless experience, and that's the promise that our Design for Surface logo program really brings. So, a whole bunch of information from this slide, but digging in, we really see this device as offering three main things. One, it's that teamwork anywhere value proposition. I was talking about that trend of collaboration increasing in the workplace. And as I said, people don't go to a room and say, this is the room to be collaborative in. This is the place where collaboration happens. It doesn't happen anywhere else. No, collaboration happens where it naturally occurs between people. And so to be able to take this device, maybe unplug it from where it was charging, and bring it to where the team will most naturally use it is a super important concept. The fact that it has Teams built in front and center, I can join a Teams meeting with one-touch join right from the home screen here because I can invite the hub. Super important part of bringing in all those remote participants and making them feel as included and considered during the discussion as the people who are physically standing around the hub. And then that fluid team collaboration. To use an app like Whiteboard that really lets people interact as fluidly and as free form as they wish during the collaboration session, super important, but also the ability to fluidly go from one app to another or to have apps open side by side. That's as much an important concept as well. So I've sort of already talked in detail about these, the teamwork aspect piece. You see here, this is not actually something that was done in post-production. We literally unplugged the device. We had PowerPoint running on it, and the actor who was pushing this thing around literally pushed it down the hallway with PowerPoint running. I was actually doing a video shoot a couple of weeks ago, and part of the video shoot included a Teams call running. We had the Teams call set up and going, and we had people sitting behind the devices, and so we had 4 screens on camera. And I just had to bring the hub to where the camera crew was and where we were about to film the scene. And so I unplugged it and wheeled it down the hallway and actually was literally using the actual value proposition to then go film the value proposition. It was a very meta experience. But it actually very much was about living the dream, to be able to just take this in the moment, flexibly adjust and move the device with all my content active and all of my teamwork and collaboration uninterrupted. Super important. So, couple of those capabilities. We did dramatically reduce the weight of Surface Hub from V1 to V2, which actually makes it far easier for just 2 everyday people to lift the box, lift the device as they're installing it. Installation of large screen devices we know is a super important part of the whole experience, not just the experience of all the end users once the thing is installed, right? And so we thought a lot from the installation experience to the packaging, everything to make it easier for you, for the IT staff, for the real estate and facilities folks who actually have to get it from the truck into its final state. And we've talked about some of the other pieces there as well. From a Teams perspective, as we said, super important to have that Teams integration. We have a 4K camera built in, but because of the modularity, as camera technology evolves, I talked about the fact that the screen itself continues to be an investment you can leverage into the future. So you can modularly lift this off, and in the future, when additional standards of camera resolution become relevant, where's the buttons here? I will find them. Then you can pop it back on, and I will find that button, I swear. There you go. The thing that I'm actually showing right now by putting it back into these slots here is part of this proprietary design that the engineering team did, where if you're carrying it, you don't want to knock this off and actually hurt the USB port, because that actually is a damage that is caused to the screen. And so the engineering team actually developed a system where this can actually fold backwards and still stay connected and then pop back on. So everything down to all those little details was a super important part of the design experience that the engineering team did. It's a 4K camera, 4K plus screen, so all those video feeds and your own video feed out to those remote participants comes through super clearly. And then, of course, we talked about Whiteboard, but again, the fact that this is built on top of Windows 10, it's a team-optimized version of Windows 10 that is sort of locked down, so you have that sort of private, controlled experience where one team's information that they've used during collaboration session is no longer available to the next team. That's sort of the optimization that we've done on top of Windows 10. But it leverages sort of the core essence of what Windows 10 is, which means that you can have all those app experiences on there, like we talked about, like those Microsoft 365 experiences. So with that, the marketing guy is going to stop talking. We're going to bring up Stephanie to show us a little bit about how she and Nike think about Surface Hub 2S and collaboration in their environment. Stephanie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. And thank you to Microsoft and the Surface team for inviting me to come here today and to be able to demo and share with you some of the amazing ways that the Microsoft Surface Hub 2S is transforming digital collaboration and also allowing us to more effectively communicate with our teammates who are now increasingly becoming more geographically dispersed. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So as David was saying, there's a tight integration with Teams on this device. So ahead of time, we scheduled a meeting with some of our teammates, and I'm going to go ahead and click this button right here that's showing me I can do a one-button push to join. Boom, we're off and running. Now you're going to start to see on the right-hand side of my screen, this is the Teams portion, what we lovingly like to call at my company the Brady Bunch effect, where you've got people stacked on top of other people, but with active speaker presence. And what that actually means is that if you've got 8 people talking during this meeting, the people that are actually speaking will actually rotate onto this screen, and those will be the faces that you see so you know who you're communicating with. All right, let's go ahead and make this be full screen so you can see what that entire large screen Teams experience looks like, and you see everybody's faces on there. Everybody wave. All right, we'll take that back. Okay, so if we want to start collaborating, now we've got Microsoft Whiteboard application at our fingertips. And if I sign in with the power of Microsoft 365 and the integrations with Azure Active Directory, I can actually use my phone to authenticate after I type in my login name. So I'm going to go ahead and start to type in my name. And because of the Active Directory integration, it's going to do a fuzzy search. So I only have to type in the first 4 letters of my name, which starts to speed up that authentication process. So now I'm going to tell it, go ahead, send me that notification. It's going to send it to my phone, which is telling me not to drive while I'm texting. Awesome. All right, I'm going to match up the number on my phone, find the 99, enter in my PIN code, and there we go. Now I'm authenticated and I'm logged in.
One of the things that's actually notable here is, especially in front of a team, not only on a large display is it sort of more annoying to hunt and peck your password, but the other thing is in front of all your coworkers, you don't necessarily want them to see character at a time as you're hunting and pecking your password, right?
Yes.
So by bringing in phone auth, it's not only easier to do, but it's also a little bit more secure for you, keeping your identity and your credentials private.
And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because as we've been testing that, every single time that we were going to type in our passwords, everybody would turn around. Yeah. Not necessarily a real live scenario, so thank you for bringing that up. All right, so now that we're logged in, now we get to start to harness some of the power of the Microsoft Whiteboarding application. So I'm going to go ahead and invite people into this whiteboard. Actually, I'm going to go back to my home, and we're going to choose the right whiteboarding. So now that I'm logged in, I pre-populated one of my whiteboards with a brainstorming session so that we could continue to collaborate with the people in this meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that whiteboard, and it's going to open and load. And you can see while it's loading the fact that you can have multiple whiteboarding sessions, and once you log in, those whiteboards will travel with you perpetually. You could also invite people into those sessions, and they will always remain in those whiteboarding sessions, such that when you get up and leave and you're not by the Surface Hub anymore, and you go back to your desk, and maybe you've got a Surface Studio or a Surface Pro, and you want to keep whiteboarding with that awesome touchscreen experience, you can do that, and you never lose a moment of productivity. So now that it's loaded, I can use my pinch to zoom, in and out, pretty awesome, infinite canvas on the whiteboarding application. So now you can see, all right, I've already invited people to this whiteboard. This is my roster. I can double check. Yep, everybody's active. That looks good. And if they want to, I'm going to stop moving this around. They can start adding content to the whiteboard. And I'm looking down at them right now to see if they can get it up here if the connection works. If it works, when they start to add content onto the board or start to annotate, you'll actually see their little initials come up and fly up as they're adding content. There you go, right there. CC. So Chris Kumler just added this whiteboard Oh, well, this is awesome, actually. So this is an image of a whiteboard to our session. So he said, gosh, you know what? I was in another room, another meeting. We were collaborating, and we didn't have a digital whiteboard or a Surface Hub 2S in our room. And so we had to take a picture of the whiteboard. What do I do with this? Microsoft has geniusly invented what we like to call the magic wand tool. So I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger so you can see that. So this is the picture of the physical whiteboard. By having it selected and pressing the magic wand tool, it is going to automatically convert that to a digital whiteboard drawing that I can now take my eraser on the pen and edit it and mark that up. So that's no longer just a static image. Now that's something that's more usable.
We've gone from an analog whiteboard to a photo that normally would just get locked in your phone. Many people forget to even email that photo to themselves, so it just gets stuck in a big, long sea of photos. The people who do remember to email it, well, it often has a subject line, image 0653, and you can't search your inbox effectively on it. And even if you do remember to send it out to your team and they can find it, they have to go back to their email every time to find the picture of the whiteboard with the ideas that they're collaborating on. Not only did we bring those ideas into the whiteboard where the rest of our content from our collaboration is, but then we can actually make use of that inking experience.
Yes.
I'm going to say goodbye to our people who have so kindly said hello and just maximize the whiteboard full screen so that we can let their smiles stop staying frozen on their faces and continue the demo.
Oh, he's more kind than I am. Okay, so the other thing that we tend to not think about is when you're ideating on a physical whiteboard and it's bright white, that doesn't really do anything to you. However, when you want to actually collaborate in front of the Surface Hub 2S and you've got that bright white background and now it's this digital device, you actually can start to have a little bit of eye strain or eye fatigue. So one of the things that I like to do, and I tend to move really fast through this, I'm going to try to slow down, is I go up to the settings in the right-hand corner of the whiteboard, and there's actually two other settings I'll do too, but first we'll go to Format Background, and I change the color. So Microsoft has done some amazing research with being able to find the correct contrasting colors to give you some pre-formulated templates that you can choose from. So I like gray. That's going to allow me to actually look at this board longer. I love that. So let me know, can you guys still see that okay? And I can change it back to white if not. Good to go? Okay, cool. The other thing is I'm not an amazing artist. I don't know if you guys, actually you guys are probably all amazing artists. I'm not. So I like to turn on the graph background, which then starts to give me a grid such that now I've got a point of reference if I want to take notes or put bullet marks on the screen. I'm not going to get quite as lost. So then what I was saying about the other two settings I always like to turn on right when we start because there's a power factor there and not all collaboration technology can do this. Ink to shape and ink to table. So Microsoft has intelligently known that, hey, guess what? You know what? When you're collaborating, a lot of times you want to start to draw tables and put your ideas into that. Boom, snap to shape. My square looked horrible. You saw that initially, right? Okay, so now that ink to table is going to intelligently start to create a table for me, and I don't have to keep drawing. I can just hit the plus marks and keep extending it out if I want to. It's also going to intelligently resize itself as I start to put content inside of those boxes.
Yep.
That. All right. Pause for effect. All right, so we'll delete that guy. And that's just the whiteboarding application. So now, because of the power and the integrations with Microsoft 365, I can hit this little menu button down here, and boom, I've got access to all of my Microsoft Office files that we all tend to work with every single day, day in and day out, such that this starts to increase our productivity a little bit more. A lot bit more, actually. And then I love this. So this is the proprietary split screen. So if I were sharing this content right now through the Teams meeting, if we were still doing that, people would be able to see this entire screen that I was sharing with them. So it's no longer just about the whiteboard. Now it's about your entire Office productivity suite. So here in Microsoft PowerPoint, I'm going to go ahead and hit sign in. And because I've already signed in once, this Surface Hub has grabbed a token of that credential. And all I have to do is click on it and hit continue. And boom, I'll be in. Now you can start to see some of my recent files come up. And if I wanted to click on one and start to annotate, Microsoft has done an amazing job of putting native annotation capabilities into every Microsoft Office product on the Surface Hub 2S. So if I'm in PowerPoint, While you could type in here using the text boxes if you want to, you can also annotate over the top of your content and draw attention to certain areas. Wow, see, I'm a horrible artist. You don't want to pay attention to my stuff. If you save this, here's another huge differentiating factor with the Microsoft Surface Hub 2S. Wow, that's a mouthful. When you save this document, this no longer becomes a flat vector PDF or image that you're sharing out with your teammates. These now become movable objects within your presentation that allow your collaboration to never be stunted, and you can continue moving forward such that it's not a wasted effort and someone's not spending hours going back to their desk and translating all of your collaboration back into the documents that you actually want to work with.
Some people even like to use annotation as the actual thing that's on the PowerPoint slide itself. Actually, in the education space, we see a lot of teachers really liking to put ink on slides, and then they can use the animation capabilities within PowerPoint to animate in the inking pieces sort of one at a time as well. So a lot of flexibility for how you use ink, but whether it's corrective or actually instructive and part of the content.
Oh, it's perfect, thank you. And I brought this back up for a second, so instead of flipping out, into Word or into Excel or other applications, I'm gonna use this guy simply because I wanna show you something else that's extremely powerful that we've leveraged already a lot within our company. And it's this awesome little snipping tool right up at the corner of the screen. So yeah, you guys can all see that up in the PowerPoint. It looks like a little pair of scissors. And what that's gonna do is fly out an entire full screen cropped image such that all I have to do is take my finger, drag it over the content of what I wanna be cropped. It's going to grab that and automatically throw that onto my whiteboard. Right up there, this tiny little guy. Such that if you actually wanted to maybe rearrange your slide deck, or if you were doing website design, and so you went out to your website and you said, hey, we need to crop certain areas of the image, and I don't really want to try internet right now and going out to the browser, otherwise I'd show you guys that because we've used that already because we're heavy in design, if you will. You could actually start to say, okay, this is the flow of how we want our website design to look. All right.
So I think one other thing, because this is a device that's really going to be about the pen and touch experience, we not only think about inking and Whiteboard where it makes total sense that it's ink first, we not only think about other applications where it makes sense to bring in inking content to then edit and provide feedback, but also other new types of scenarios where inking can actually help us share our ideas. And so in this case, we're going to sort of gratuitously show the Surface Hub 2S launch video. That's a little bit meta as well. But you can even leverage ink to share ideas and annotate on here as well.
Yes. So huge power factor for us was the ability to annotate over the top of live streaming video. So I don't know how many of you guys have been in an editing session with a video where it's really hard to be able to drill into the content and say, hey, up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, I want you to scrub this part of the video image. By opening the video on the Surface Hub 2S and saying, hey, I want to be able to draw on this video, it's going to automatically pause the moment that I do that, or the moment that I start to write on the board and say, you know what, get rid of that part of it. Down here, on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see where it starts to actually do ink drop, saying, hey, that's where you annotated, that's where you made the edit. And then because of the power of Microsoft 365 and the native integrations, once I save this, it's already being saved back to OneDrive, to my files. So if I shared this file with one of my teammates, they could go and take action on these edits, hit save again, and then during this collaboration session, I could bring that video back up and we could actually see what those changes looked like in real time. One other really powerful factor as well is if we kept going with this for further, there would be multiple ink drops coming along the timeline at the bottom, and it would actually play through fluidly, and I'll show you that just by going back a little bit. And it'll show you the annotations as they were happening. That way, if you wanted to talk to them and say, yeah, that's right, we wanted you to get rid of that area right there. Did you guys make that change? Okay, let's keep going.
And in fact, the engineering team did make that change because they took out the speakers from the side and integrated them into the bezels. Shameless plug for my engineering team. Super amazing, though. As a marketing professional, I work with agencies. I mentioned that video shoot I was doing before. To be able to now just ink up my feedback exactly on the asset I'm reviewing and share that feedback in context. Think about how many emails I no longer have to type, bullet. At 37 seconds, do this change, right? I can just circle exactly what I want to happen, cross something out, make an edit, make an annotation, tell it what I want to do at any given time. So, the whole time we've been doing this demo, what it has been apparent is, the hub has been in one place on the stand here. This could have just as effectively been mounted to a wall. But the real power of Surface Hub 2S as a mobile solution really comes into play if I start to yank all of the cables, which happen to just be projector and Ethernet, other than the actual power cord. And now this becomes a truly mobile solution. And the folks, watching the recording won't actually really be able to see this, but otherwise everything is just untethered. And we can roll this down the stage. All the other cables are basically providing power and Ethernet to make sure everything is functional here for the demo. But this really does become a mobile product, very versatile, very easy for one person. I'm just here trailing with the cable here. This is my job now. Very easy for one person to just bring this exactly where they need to go, right? And so whether you're a team, it's the top of the hour, the next team is knocking on the door saying, hey, it's the turn of the hour, get out of the conference room, we got to get started. If we haven't finished our meeting, we can just take the hub, all the people live on the meeting right away, and pull them into the hallway, into an open collaboration session or space, finish up our collaboration session, and then gracefully end everything. If we need to log in to save the whiteboard, we can do all that before we then end the session. Or think about now the ability to bring this out from wherever it's been charging up, bring it into an open workspace area where maybe there isn't any power available, or it doesn't matter where the plugs are, because we can take it, do a whole meeting with it, and then return the device, plug it back in, and have it ready and powered for the next team to use. A ton of new potential options for teams to leverage a shared device like this that were never possible with a traditional large touchscreen device.
Something that we're really excited about as well. One of the things that we're hoping to be able to do with this, and we've already kind of tested it, and we're loving the possibilities ahead of us, is the ability to take collaboration to the field, take it to sports, such that we could actually take this, roll this outside, get our blood flowing, because we like to jump and move around, and get our focus back and keep collaborating on a board that can go with us and collaborate with us at any point in time wherever we want to do it.
Exactly. All you need is maybe a little Wi-Fi hotspot or LTE tethering from your phone or something, and now, as we said, world's largest tablet, right, out there on the field with you, have that Teams call active, connect all your cloud files for the power of the team. And then, when you're all done with the session, magic button,
drum roll, please.
End session.
Woo!
Everything we've done, the login that Stephanie did, the credentials she typed in, the cloud files that she gained access to be able to leverage those during the session to share with her team the right content at the right time, all of it goes away, all of it's cleared from the device, and the device becomes literally and figuratively a blank canvas for the next team to go use, confident that none of that data is still there. Super exciting stuff. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for showing us that
My
demo.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, a couple more housekeeping things before we wrap up and leave. As we said, just a little bit more time for people to come up, try the pen, try the touch, test out the device. The accessories, super important part. We do have one pen and one camera that ship in the box, but lots of companies like to get multiple pens, so those are available as standalone accessories. So that's available as well. You can Bluetooth pair the pen, and so that will also bring down firmware updates and tell you how much battery is remaining in the pen, something we always like to encourage customers to do, because often we get the question, how do I know how much battery is left in the pen? That's a great way to do it. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the camera, which comes in the box but is also something that detaches. It's just a USB-C port on all three sides of there. So if you are interested or you're trying to use one of these in a more traditional meeting space where maybe you have participants who are further away and you want to extend the range with additional Microsoft Teams certified microphones or cameras, additional peripherals, then because it's just leveraging USB-C and there's a USB-A port on the back, you can continue to do so and have that versatility. And then here are the accessories we mentioned. Again, it's hard to really see where the seams are. If I actually turn this from the side, it's actually hard to tell for the folks who can kind of see. This line right here is where the Steelcase Roam mobile stand leaves off and the Surface Hub 2S begins. Microsoft, Steelcase. Microsoft, Steelcase. That's intentional. Sorry, that was a little too instructive than I intended. But that's the point. Our design for Surface Program really ensures that we apply the same design quality and rigorous standards to our third-party partners as we do to ourselves in our own very perfectionistic and amazing engineering team. And so that's what results in seamless integration. Everything down to the 12-degree angle that the hub is integrated at flows through the stand. The battery fits very neatly under here. It's hard to tell where the APC Charge mobile battery leaves off and the steel case Roam stand picks up. The APC Charge mobile battery is available for pre-order right now. It will soon begin shipping, and customers will start to receive them in the early part of 2020. Everything else is already available in at least 25 markets, and we've been continuing to expand with the intention of being in every Surface market there is, so there's no gap between what customers can get from the rest of the Surface portfolio you see over there, and of course, Surface Hub 2S. And so with that, we'll say thank you to you. Thank you for your time. We know this is a busy week. You have tons of sessions to go to, and you're not going to be able to see everything during the week, and so that's why the recordings are super important. And so the fact that you're here in person, we really appreciate your time. We hope this was a valuable use of your time. For those who will be watching the recording, thank you so much for being interested in Surface Hub 2S and coming to learn about it. We hope this was valuable for you as well. With that, I think we'll sort of stop the formal part of our session and let people just sort of come up and touch and feel for the next 7 minutes. Thank you very much, everybody.